Hi, folks. Jennifer Nelson here, founder of Scout Real Estate. Glad you're listening in. I created Pocket Hours podcast to elevate our game and help us all learn from the best. I have interviewed some of the top producers in our industry about best practices, among many other things. We also tackle industry issues and changes with great conversation from many of our leaders. And the best part is you get clock hours just for listening in. After you have listened to 3 episodes, just email info@scoutrealestate.com to answer a few easy questions for the interview, and you will receive your certificate. Meanwhile, enjoy listening and learning, and go out there and be the agent you would hire. Hello, everyone. This is Jennifer Nelson with Pocket Hours, and a happy, let's see, what is today? A happy Wednesday. As you're listening to this, it might be Wednesday. We don't know. It's a beautiful, crisp winter day with mountains out, and I'm excited today because I get to be talking with Miss Wendy Sloneker. Wendy and I go way back, way back. Hi, Wendy. Welcome to the show.
Hi. All the way back. Let's go.
Years ago when I started another real estate company, almost 10 years ago. Can you believe that, Wendy?
No,
We were introduced because I think through B&I connections.
it's true.
And Wendy helped us get going in that first company, but has since then pivoted to find her true calling in life. And I'm so excited to have her on the show. So Wendy does what's called emergence coaching, and she specializes in grief and loss. And you're going to say automatically, if you're listening to the show, what? Jen has lost her way. She's lost her way. I thought this was a podcast about real estate. And
How's this
so
going to help me?
what's going on here? You are going to be blown away by how much it's going to help you. I have personally hired Wendy over a couple different years, different times to do some coaching for me. And it's been extremely helpful. We'll get into that a little bit. But more than anything, let me give you a little context. We are in a business where there are ups and downs every day, sometimes within 5 minutes, right? And so some of us get into this business thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to make a bunch of money and I'm going to help people sell houses and it's just going to be great. And no consideration whatsoever for the emotional toil that real estate can, wreak some pretty intense havoc on your life, not to mention your nervous system. And so there are many grief sessions, if you will, many grievings that we have throughout any day that this is where I wanted Wendy to speak with us about that. And thoughts and feelings management and sort of how we navigate those is going to literally help us be better brokers. So how's that for an intro, Wendy? You like it?
Oh my gosh, I'm just going to applaud right now. It's
Yay, I love
awesome. Yeah,
applause.
you totally nailed it. Nailed it. Yeah.
Good,
So,
good.
like, just to sort of cap into that, just to merge swimmingly, we take so much action and inaction based on feelings. So, this is like, if nothing else, we take so much action and inaction based on feelings. This is why feelings are really important, is because they drive action and inaction. And even if you, as a broker or
Yeah.
as an agent, even if you have a goal of selling a house as a service to this client, and the client has the same goal of selling the house in service to themselves, the motives underneath that, the feelings underneath that are radically different experiences.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
this is
Definitely.
also similar to how, like, oh, well, like we had a death in the family. And my experience of grief and loss or disappointment or anger or some sort of dynamic, like, is radically different than my sibling. Is because the relationship is different.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait. Okay, this is going to be fun because there's so many things to talk about. But just give us a little bit of what drew you to this work. And I also want to point out that Wendy has written and published a book called Heart Healing from Loss. It's a fantastic read. And I will say this before I let her talk, because I'm talking a lot and I want you to talk, is that if you think, gosh, I've really not lost anyone, no one's died in my family yet, or I haven't really, I think you'll be surprised to know that grief is a much bigger concept than when someone dies. And so what I love about Wendy's work, which is why she's on the show, it's not because someone has to die in order for us to have these feelings that we need to kind of work through. And so we're going to hit on that. But tell us what drew you to this work.
Well, it was definitely a calling. Like, I had a couple things happen in my own personal life, and I needed this kind of support. I felt ill equipped. It was a medical emergency that happened with my partner, who is fine. But, like, after the emergency was over and the adrenaline sort of settled down, I did not feel equipped to handle like, I was saying things like, "Life, you better not hand me anything else because I can't handle it right now."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
life doesn't work like that. Life is like, if you've tried negotiating or bargaining or any of that stuff, like, it
Yes.
was not a linear thing either. Like, which is often something we hope and pray for, something formulaic that we can feel and identify
Yes.
with. That's just not it.
Yeah.
It was the messiest, scariest line drawing ever of somebody's, like, devastated lower intestine was my
Wow.
path.
Yeah.
And so I was called to, like, okay, what now? I've done a lot of things in my life. I've felt a lot of things in my life. I've been through some, and I still feel ill equipped. So if this is resonating, like, let it wash right over you. Death is not required. It's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
required. And I looked back on my life and I was like, why am I doing this? Am I pivoting? Like, am I pivoting? Like, that was the big buzzword in 2020, which is when
Sure
it
was.
happened.
Yeah.
Dang it.
Oh.
So I had a business that died. I had a partner that was in a medical distress, and I've had my own experience with different forms of recovery. So
Mm.
there's some stuff. Divorce is part of my story. Breakups are part of my story. And when I talk about grief and loss, I'm also going to include disappointment because I feel like that's big, not only in the work that you do and your peers do, but in the world. Like,
Hmm.
I didn't sign up for this, but this is happening here. This is
Yeah.
crap.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now what do I
Yeah.
do? How do I navigate this in a way that I can be healthy? I'm not going to wreak havoc. I'm also going to be present and not miss my life.
I like that you said earlier, feelings drive action and inaction. Our culture and our society has done everyone a disservice. And I can blame the patriarchy all day long, and I will. But I'll also
I'll join
say,
you.
women are a part of that, to say we have created this society that says there are only some feelings that are acceptable. And so when you have those, feel free to share. But gosh, the rest of them, you kind of just need to get over those or stuff them or don't
Oh my God.
mention them. No one's comfortable with those emotions.
Yeah.
And I'm going to relate this immediately to real estate, to say, if you're not talking about how great your business is and how, like, oh, I'm doing great and I love it and it's so much fun, then, gosh, no one really wants to hear about it. And I know at Scout, the company that I own, our brokers, we talk all the time about, this is fucking hard. This is a hard business. And there's times when you want to smack your clients, and there's times when you're like, I can't believe I didn't get that listing. And so we're going to get into sort of some of the specifics of loss that are related to real estate. But to circle back to sort of this feelings drive action in action, say more about that, Wendy.
Right. Well, this goes into the part of the business that you mentioned at the top, which is thoughts and feelings management. So I'm just going to relay it if you wanted to search for it. This is totally searchable by a woman named Brooke Castillo, who gathered these pieces into something called a thought model or a self-coaching model. And so it's a way of providing a lens for how am I creating my own results here. So this is about taking responsibility, and unconsciously, like, if we're having 40 to 60,000 thoughts a day, and we are,
Whoa.
40 to 60,000, like, that's a fine commission for anybody, but that's the number of thoughts that we're having. So if we're having those, and we're not going to be conscious of all of them. So there's a lot of unconscious thoughts and feelings that are driving the bus based on circumstances which are boring. If you want to find a circumstance in your life, it is dull. It is based in facts. We think we have ideas that we like, have thoughts that are loaded and rife with facts. No, we don't. We have
Yeah.
a few facts and so much opinion and judgment and dream and, like, there's lots of adjectives which can be dramatic, right? And when I say
Yep.
dramatic, I mean evoke a feeling. If you're having a thought and it's feeling like a happy, sad, mad, whatever, if there's a feeling involved, it's not a circumstance. Circumstances
Got it.
can be proved in a court of law. So circumstances inspire thoughts, opinions, judgments, dreams, hopes, those things. Every thought creates a feeling, each and every one. And if we're having 40 to 60,000,
We're having 40 to 60,000 feelings.
we're going through a lot.
Yeah, I immediately thought of last year was an interesting year in real estate, okay? And interesting is wow.
Understatement?
Yeah, interestingly enough, you could line up 10 different realtors and you could say, "How was your year last year?"
Hmm.
And while the market definitely shifted, okay, and interest rates rose and inventory was low, those were all factual things, okay?
Hmm.
You could have somebody say, "Had my best year ever."
Right.
And you could have someone over here saying, well, the market shifted and the interest rates went up. And so my business completely dried up. So I'm just trying to say the thoughts and
Yep.
feelings, one person can take the circumstances, which are real, and go, oh, okay, well, I'm going to have to pivot. There's that word, and go over here and work harder over here, take responsibility and try to have as best the year as I can.
Let's
And
see what
another one
happens.
can say, gosh, there's just no inventory. And so, I just can't sell houses.
Right. So
Yeah,
this like creates an opportunity to either step forward to zoom in on what you can do or zoom out for a bigger perspective on like, what do I want to do? What's available to
yeah,
me that I can do? I mean, I love my work and I enjoy working hard. And there's only so much working hard that's going to avail me of like, okay, let's assess. Because I love working and I would like to do it smart and efficient and with minimal emotional toil.
hmm
So, like,
yeah,
is this aligned? What else is going on in here that I can uncover so I can be excited about my work? Because in 2023, people are often assuming, oh my gosh, you must be totally busy. And I'm like, I'm busy and I could be busier. Why? Because, like, in 2020, if we go back a couple more years, people were not interested in
yeah,
exploring their like, not everyone like, sourdough was a thing, like, everyone was becoming an expert baker because we were all home and dealing with ourselves, like, that was a time of relationships getting real different. Real estate, I'm sure, was getting real different, and it was just roller coastery. So that's a word that I actually use. I'm like, "Oh, lots of thoughts and feelings." Roller
yeah,
coastery. Like, it's
yeah.
exciting. I'm getting lots of experience. Am I nailing it? Am I landing it? Am I arriving? All the time and never.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm on the
yeah, for
ride.
sure.
I'm in the,
Uh-huh.
like Brene Brown says, like, she talks about being in the arena. I'm in the arena. It's
Yeah,
really happening here. I'm dealing with
yeah.
like lots of feelings.
Every day.
Right.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm also like, my clients are happy
Uh-huh.
and I'm doing my work.
You're talking a little bit about personal responsibility, and I'd love to go there for a minute. Some of the work that you did with me, I'm willing to share some of that for all the listeners, but is to say I could come to Wendy for one of our sessions and say, here's everything that's not going right. And here's what I'm thinking about this. And what Wendy did was to continue to ask me questions about, okay, so what if this is in your control and what can you do? Right. And sort of managing. So I could go off on a tangent about how rah, 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 over here. Right. And she'd be like, okay. Yep. All right. So now what about this over here? Or what's possible over here? Or how can we shift your thoughts to then change your feelings around this? And so some of the work that was involved in that was to say, hey, what is your responsibility personally? What can you take ownership of? What can you create for yourself? Because sort of waiting for the circumstances to make things right for you, you're going to wait a long time, and sometimes it'll work. So that's the weird part, right? It's that intermittent sort of reinforcement that makes you stick around to say, well, I wonder if this is going to happen now. I wonder if I'm going to get lucky again. I wonder if, instead of saying, oh, no, no, This is what I need to do to create the life I want to have. And if I hang out over here, that something is wrong all the time. One of your best phrases to me is, I don't think there's a problem here. I don't think there's a problem here.
Right.
So I go on this rampage of like, well, this is wrong. And this is blah, blah, blah. And she would say, is there a problem here? Right. And I'd be like, oh, no, I
Right.
guess not. So
Well,
let's switch over there. So yeah.
right. I love what you bring to that. And what is sort of hidden underneath that is the work you did of just coming and opening it all up, like both barrels, all the whatever, like you just let it run. It was like you were releasing a dam. And this is important. Like a lot of times we'll hold back because it's not societally acceptable. Oh, I should really just talk about the good things. Even with my coach, this is a hang up that we have and we withhold from ourselves. So the amazing thing that you did was you were just like this and this and this, and you really gave yourself an opportunity to be heard, not just by me, but by you. Like you were fully open so we could like put it all out there and say, okay, let's look at it. If a feeling was not a problem and it was a sensation that was passing through your body, there's nothing wrong with feeling anything that you're feeling. And so some of it was being willing. I want everybody in the listening sphere to catch this that like, yeah, and you completely just said, here's what's up. And I'm not happy about it. And you were honest in that way to the point where like that in self is an exercise in it's revolutionary because you're being
Yeah.
completely
Sort of.
honest.
Yeah. Not distracting yourself with whatever it is. We had Teresa Bianchi on the show. She was fabulous. She was an alcoholic, and she said that through a lot of her real estate career, she would numb with alcohol, right? Like didn't get that offer, didn't get that client, or even won that offer, got that. It was
Oh
like
my
there was
good and
always a reason. Yeah, always a reason to have a
mm-hmm,
drink.
mm-hmm.
And recognizing that a lot of the time it was to sort of numb the feeling. Interestingly enough, whether it was negative or positive, it was still a numbing, right? It was still a numbing. And so losing alcohol, giving up alcohol in her life and becoming sober, and how much she gained from just even feeling the feels. I'm
Right.
just going to feel all the feels, and what a difference that's made in her life. I want to talk for a second about a couple of the ways that we as realtors sort of encounter grief. And I'm going to just touch on a few because there's a lot more. But before I get there, I want to say this. Some of the work that Wendy does, at least she's done with me, and I know she would do with others, is to go through a process of saying, let's pick 2 or 3 instances in your life or people in your life that you want to work through. And by the way, spoiler alert, these don't have to be dead people.
Mm-mm,
None of
mm-mm,
mine were. None of mine
mm-mm,
were. All right.
mm-hmm.
So, and I'll be upfront to say one of mine was when I started this company 10 years ago with 2 other partners. And that changed and shifted. And I'm now in a new company and I'm grateful for that change. But that transition brought some grief for me. And so these are live people, right? We're colleagues in the business. And yet I had some grief that I had to work through. And some of what happened and Wendy helped me through was talking about what she called SESs. I remember that, significant emotional statements. Wendy, tell us a little bit about what those are.
It's about your experience and relaying it in a way that is true and resonant for you without any care, concern, whatever for anything or anyone else. This is about you creating safety in a contained space, whether it's like you and a piece of paper, you and another person, you and a trusted organization, wherever, whoever. This is about telling your truth and like just willing to have it be there for this moment. These significant emotional statements are critical and it's part of being heard. And they can change. But for this moment, this is what it is. And these are things that we continue to refine and work with so we feel better. And when I say we feel better, like we learn how to feel our feelings in an improved and skillful way, not just, I feel great.
Right. Yeah.
And, you know, like,
Not very descriptive. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So significant emotional statements are core to our, permit me to say, consciousness. And when I say that, I mean presence, because what we don't want to
Yeah.
miss is our lives. Like, I don't want to
Right.
hang out in the past because, like, often our brains are wired in a way that, like, when we're ruminating or we're having a reflective memory, we'll go to a painful past. This is how we try to find evidence that will substantiate, oh, okay, like, here's how I'm not going to move forward. Here's how I am going to move forward, is we're looking for evidence in the past. And so that piece about like waiting to see what'll happen, it's compelling because honestly, this work is hard. It's a
Yeah.
spiritual friggin' journey to like be in business
Yeah.
for yourself and not receive a check every 2 weeks and all the things that just get to be managed. Now, the other part is we go to a fearful future. This is part of our wiring. This is how we also try to protect ourselves. This is also why we try to use short term coping skills as long term.
Solutions. Yeah.
Yes, yes, exactly. So this is how, like, oh, sugar sounds good because I'm happy. Sugar sounds good because I'm feeling rejected. And I don't want to say the word rejected because I'm afraid that I won't be able to handle the sensations that are flowing through my body.
Yeah,
This
for
is one
sure.
of the biggest disservices that we also say in our reactive selves is like, I can't handle my feelings
Hmm.
because what you're
Hmm.
creating is anxiety and resistance and more like, I'm going to put that off. I'm going to put that
Yep.
off because I don't think I can handle it. It's not that you can't handle it. You haven't been taught how.
Yeah.
You've been
Right.
told to not feel bad.
Yeah.
That's not a solution. That's short term.
Right. Right.
Like, I'm not
Yeah.
going to feel bad while I'm shopping for groceries. So I'm not in the fetal position in the grocery store, but I'm going to give myself time and space to just be with me. I'm going to find a
Yeah.
comfort that will work to like alleviate this kind of stress so I can be here.
Yeah. When and where to do it. Pocket Hours is brought to you by Scout Real Estate. Hi, I'm Jennifer Nelson, owner at Scout Real Estate. I started this firm with the vision of doing things differently, with our focus on legendary service for our clients and creating a community of producing agents to spur each other to do higher quality work. If you are interested in learning more about how a small group of like-minded brokers have come together to have some fun while doing a lot of business, reach out to me, 206-227-7966, or email jennifer@scoutrealestate.com. I promise you this, fun is a high priority for me, but so is winning. So if you appreciate those two things, you might be interested in Scout. Looking forward to hearing from you. I remember in the significant emotional statements portion of our work that some of the work that you're doing here is to say, this thing happened in my life. Again, someone didn't have to die, but maybe they did. And I have feelings around it that I know I haven't processed. So we're storing those in our body
Yep.
and they're coming out in different ways, some of which we might be aware of, a lot of which we are not aware of. In this time when I'm working with Wendy, like I want you to write above the line on this piece of paper things that you think were great. And it's amazing to me because you're like, let's say you're working through your relationship with your dad. Let's say you're working through your relationship with real estate. Let's go there. And you're
Totally.
writing, I loved the day that I got licensed. I was so excited. So we're writing that above the line. And then, a year later, you're writing below the line. I feel like I can't measure up, like I'm not doing as well as anybody else in my office.
Right.
As you're doing these exercises, you're recognizing in a lifespan, you can fill up one sheet of paper easily because your brain has stored these way back here, that there are significant moments in your life when you had a pretty big feeling that you weren't able to communicate what you really felt about it.
Right.
And
Right.
so some of the work that Wendy and I did was to say, what needs to be said here out loud, not to the people, not even, this isn't about the other people at all, but you're writing a letter to this person or these people or this circumstance and saying, here's what I wanted to say. Here's what hurt, and letting that move through you because they're stored, they're back here. Like, I wish I could have said to the person who died, or to me, here's some things that hurt that I wish I could have communicated about, but I didn't, but it's still there. And so some of the work that you're doing is having this stuff that's stored and taken up room and also taken up, emotional capacity, get worked out. It was great work.
I'm so glad. Well, and this is like, again, more of the feeling seen and heard. it's critical. It's a critical thing. Like you're being with it long enough in practical, doable ways that are not based on talking about it endlessly without a direction,
Yeah, for sure.
without a
Yes.
direction. So like
Right.
contained and safe, but also practical, activity based.
Yeah.
Like,
Activity based. That's very true.
yeah.
Let's talk for just a minute. I don't think this is a big stretch at all, but I'm going to keep relating it to real estate because obviously this is a real estate podcast. But I want to say if you have ever thought I could really use a coach, or you've been disappointed by the therapists in your life that just sit there and listen to you, and like Wendy just noted, and that's a little bit like, okay, I just dumped a bunch of stuff and I walked out the door. Not sure that's helping. Check Wendy out because I'm going to personally vouch for the work that she did with me. But let's talk just for a minute about this. I'm going to just name some things out loud. And then, Wendy, we're going to talk about them. Fear of doing well, the fear of doing well, the fear of success in real estate. That's everywhere. What if I had the best year of my life, my first year, and
Mhm.
now I don't know how to sustain it? Right.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm so afraid of that. Clients' feelings. How am I supposed to manage? We're on the 16th offer with these buyers and we're not winning, and they're upset and I'm feeling the pressure and I can't get them to win. And this is weighing really heavy on me and I don't know what to do with it. Your body stores certain things. So you're going into a listing appointment and everything is heightened, right? You're afraid,
Right.
you're nervous, you're excited, you're not sure you're going to perform well, you're worried about what you're going to say. And at the end of it, you don't get the listing. And so in your brain, you're trying to figure out, what do I do with this feeling of loss? Like, shoot, I wish I would have gotten that listing. But it's deeper than that. And I think we sort of make it smaller, like, well, you didn't get the listing, kid, buck up, we'll get the next one.
Right.
But let's do this some justice to say there's a lot involved in that. There's self image, there's competency, there's
Comparison.
comparison, there's embarrassment with your colleagues, I mean, you name it. And so could we say on a grief scale that this is a lowercase g? Absolutely. But it's
Hmm.
still a G. It's still a
Right.
grief. It's still a
There's
loss.
register. It's registering because this is also your livelihood. This is also
Yeah.
like how well you're doing. This is also how you're fitting in or what you've
Yeah.
chosen. And this is also, we're working with things like self doubt. Like, did I pick the wrong thing? I was really
Mm-hmm.
excited. I think I have the capacity for this. And this particular instance or this season or this sale or this property is not going the way that I wanted, signed up
Yeah.
for, saw coming, like, which is pretty much life. This is not what I wanted,
Mm-hmm.
signed up
Mm-hmm.
for, or saw coming. This is
Yeah.
like we're dealing with uncertainty, and you're dealing with, as agents and brokers, you're dealing with large numbers and big investments. Heightened emotions, yes. Lots of hormones like coming from your brain throughout your body, yeah. 100%. And so honoring, like, and it doesn't have to take very long. A lot of times people tell me, like, yeah, but I don't have time for my feelings. I'm like, well, body's going to
Yeah.
win. And so,
Yeah. Yeah. Buckle
enjoy.
up. They're coming.
Yeah. I'm like, oh dear. And
Hmm.
okay.
Yeah.
If you
Here
don't
they
have
come.
time for yourself, then like you're not going to have time for your money. You're not going to have time for more clients. What makes you think you're going to have time for your life?
Some of the agents, brokers that have been on this show, I'm drawn to them primarily not because they are some kick ass agent that does a bunch of business, but because they are the most authentic people that care about other people and do a lot of self work. And that makes them really attractive. So, brokers, if you're listening to this thinking it's just another thing I have to do, start there. Start there because people will be drawn to you as you do this work
Hmm.
because you're just raw and real and vulnerable and taking accountability, and people love that because it's rare in our society to see that come up. And I think it's rare in real estate because we're all taught to be like, the market's great and I'm doing great and we're going to sell your house, and just it's this rah rah, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute, let's back that train up. Quick story, I had some clients who are also friends that I tried to sell their house last year, and I'm going to say tried to sell their house. Okay. And I've been doing this a fair amount of time, Wendy, right? So I feel like I can be like, I've been around the block. I know what I'm doing. And, here we go. So we priced their house And literally a week later, so we priced their house based on the comps. Literally a week later, the interest rates went up a lot, a huge jump. Okay. And the market shifted. Here I am staring at my friends and clients saying, well, okay, we're getting showings, but no offers. And looks like we're going to do a pretty significant price drop to get this thing sold. Do the price drop, get an offer even lower, which often happens. You do a price drop and everyone comes in even lower. They decide not to sell. And at the end of all of it, I just felt defeated. 22 years in this business thinking I felt like a newbie and embarrassed and humiliated and frustrated and all the feelings. And I remember because of the work that I've done with you and because of trying to learn this new regime and behavior, I literally called them and said, can we have a FaceTime call? And I said, listen, I want to just be really upfront with where I'm at and I want to hear where you're at. And I just like went for it and just said, this is embarrassing. This is hard. This is all the things I just said. And it was so interesting. The reason I share this story is because my clients like teared up and said, thank you for sharing that. Because what we didn't want to hear was some excuse about why this didn't work and some crazy rah rah about how we're going to regroup and go at it again. We wanted to hear that you gave a shit that this went south, that it
Yeah.
impacted you, right? We still haven't sold our house. We're going to try again
Mhm.
this year.
Yeah.
But we're coming at it in such an authentic way with me saying, I'm going to do my best and my best didn't work last time because the market shifted and it just didn't, right? And that sucks.
Yeah, and it wasn't what they had hoped for. Like, this is the other thing about, like, please take note of, I wanted it to be different. I wanted it to be better. These are the thoughts we have that create feelings that are painful that we measure ourselves against. We haven't really said the R word here, rejection. So,
Yeah. Wow.
like,
Yeah.
that's if we feel like we're repeating the same transaction again and again without the results we want, there's something we could probably do about it. There's some unconscious thought that is skewing those results in a way that is not a pleasure. That's not what we want.
Totally.
Like, not a pleasure. I
Totally.
have dated a few people that were like back when I was dating, and it felt like the same. I was repeating the relationship with different people, and that was not a pleasure. So, like,
Let's stop that pattern.
right, exactly. So, exploring that, but from a place of connection with your clients, yeah, because you know what?
Totally.
Nothing to lose. Well done. Well done.
Thanks. Well, thank you for the work. And I will say this that, we can have circumstances, and I know realtors that are listening to this, you've had someone in your world that you thought this is in the bag. When they go to buy or sell, I am totally their realtor. I know for sure they're going to use me. And then the next day you see a for sale sign come up in their yard and you're thinking, how did this happen? Right.
Right,
Unbelievable. I can't. So
right,
there's that rejection. And
right,
so whether it's that or someone once told me a long time ago that their sister used someone else, like, it
right.
doesn't have to be a big circumstance that, oh my gosh, in order for us to feel rejected, to feel lost, to feel grief in this career. And so let's turn to some practical steps, Wendy, to say, obviously, hire Wendy. If I'm just going to say that again and again, and she's not paying for this, by the way. This is not a paid advertisement, but I've gained so much from it. So I really do think, reach out to Wendy. But if you cannot do that at this point, for whatever reason, let's talk practically about what are some things that you can help us do on our own or in groups. For sure, I want to say, get the right brokerage because the leadership at your brokerage and the people you surround yourself really matter. And if they are authentic and talking this through, what a
Mhm.
difference maker that will be. But I'm
Right.
going to let you say, what are some things we
Thank
can
you.
do?
Thank you. Well, it's funny, like funny, not funny, but right on time that you mentioned like trusted people because I'm going to recommend have a debrief, like with
Yeah.
some connected person, ask upfront, like, please don't fix anything. Please just listen. Like, I would like you to behave and pretend that you are heart with ears and no mouth until I say, thank you, I'm done. And then just like open it up. Like it can be in person, it can be on FaceTime, it can be on Zoom, whatever, but have the debrief and give yourself a moment. I'm not saying 5 years, like this whole, like, I don't have time. I have to get after the next thing. Well, like, do you want the next thing? Like presence is powerful. So
Mm,
presence is
yeah.
also profitable. like as in your case with your client friend who you're like, yeah, let's give it a go. Like markets changed again.
Mm.
Presence is powerful and it's also profitable. I'm not saying
Yeah.
power is profitable. I'm saying presence is. Because
Presence.
when
Yeah.
you're really here, you can like recognize patterns. A lot of P's going on here. Recognizing patterns in your
Is that called
conversation.
alliteration, by the way?
It is. And I love
Is
it.
it? Oh
I
my
love it.
gosh. PPP.
Yeah, exactly. And all the P's have not been the word perfect. Perfection
Yes.
is not the goal. Presence.
Progress. Yes.
And progress. Yeah, for sure. Like, okay, well, I've been around the block a few times here in the real estate world, but not in this market. Yes,
Well,
it's been
yeah.
Seattle. Yes, it's been Pacific Northwest. Yes, it's been in this general area, but not in 2024, not in
Hmm.
2023.
Yeah.
Like 2023
Yeah.
was its own. 2024 is its own. And so having the wherewithal and sometimes intestinal fortitude to not rely on, well, I've been here for years and things are changing faster, right? So I've been in the market. I'm very familiar and skilled and expert in like what it's been before and certainly resourced for whatever is happening. But I'm also available for the nuances and change of how we need to move quickly when I'm faced with something I've never seen or experienced before.
We have, I think, 8 of us now at Scout. And one of my brokers who's been in the business a couple of years started to have some, gainer footing.
Yeah.
And she was out there with buyers showing houses and she put an offer in for somebody and didn't get it. And the message that I was able to convey to her and in front of the whole rest of the team was to say, doesn't it feel good to work?
Yeah.
Let's just start there,
Oh
right?
my
Let's start there.
gosh.
So, okay, we lost that offer. And yep, let's grieve that for a minute. Let's let that work through our body and be like, shoot, I wish that would have worked out. But then let's move into look at you. You're working. Like examine, stop for a minute and notice how good it feels to have clients and to be out there showing houses and to be writing offers because
Right.
eventually those are going to stick and you're going to get paid and it's going to be a lot of fun. But this step is a step in and of itself. Let's acknowledge that step first and say, "Oh my gosh, this feels amazing to just be working," right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, because if you're working, then it's working. And this is
Yeah.
also how you can choose. Like, this is an optional thought. All of them are, but this is what you can opt into. Like, oh, if I'm working, then it's working. Oh,
Yeah, I love it.
oh,
I like that one.
yeah. If I'm ready,
And
then someone out there is ready because my
that's right.
clients are ready when I am.
Yeah, we're calling it. We're calling it forward.
Right.
I love that you just said, trusted people. So again, I speak about brokerages because I think it really matters where you work, not necessarily because they're a big name or a small name or they're
Right.
going to give you leads or not. It's about finding the fit of people. And the fit of people for me and why I started Scout was to say, I want to surround myself with people that are like-minded, that are authentic, that are hardworking, that care about other individuals, that aren't in this for, oh my gosh, I just a numbers game and I'm just on a hamster wheel and I'm trying to have all the money in the world. But like, hey, we really care about your experience in real estate. And so that's what I've created. And I love it. I love these other people. But wherever you work, whatever brokers you're in, even if the leadership, the DB or whatever, isn't your favorite person, which is fine, find the other individuals that are in that firm that you go, those are my people. And so when you encounter a loss, you didn't get the listing, you didn't get the offer, that you can call them and say, I didn't get the listing. And then they get to go, yeah, it sucks, doesn't it? Let's sit here for a minute. With you said, the heart ears and no one's talking except for to go, yep, yep, yep. And then that experience alone, Wendy, I'd love for you to speak to that for a second. Just let's take the how powerful it is to say, I didn't get this. I wish I would have. And have someone else who's fully present go, yeah, I bet that was super hard. Like, period.
Yeah.
Right?
That is the fix. That's totally the
Yeah.
fixing,
Yeah.
right? And it takes so little to just be there, like phone is down, not doing anything else, tabs like on your computer, whatever. No, hey,
Yeah.
you totally have my attention, which is a currency. Like,
For
if you
sure.
want to work in currencies, let's work in attention. So, this is huge. This is also how we build trust between people. If it's not somebody in your brokerage immediately or they're not available, I will also share that, like, trusted colleagues outside of your profession have wild resources that you may never have imagined at all. One of the things I ask people after we have a session where I'm like, yeah, I would like you to just talk until you're done talking. And then I'm going to ask you, like, how did it feel to not be interrupted?
Yeah.
And often the thing is like, it was weird. Sometimes it can feel uncomfortable, but more often than not, it's like, it was refreshing. Like,
Yeah.
I got to really have my say, and somebody that cared about what I was saying was listening.
Hmm. Yep.
This is
That's so
what
great.
you can give to yourself, but then also naturally provide to your clients, your referral partners, your colleagues, your loved ones, real relationships.
I read this thing, I think it was an article, and they interviewed these sellers and they said, I'm going to butcher this a little bit, but the point is here, it's there. Hang with me. Basically, one broker offered to help pay for their moving expenses, right? So I'm going to give
Mhm.
you $5,000. You don't have to worry about the moving, right? Another broker offered to come over on Saturday and lift some boxes and hang out with them for the day and provide some lunch. And they offered this in front of these people and said, which one would you choose? And overwhelmingly, people chose come help us lift boxes. So, like $5,000, we say this all the time in our brokerage, but giving up your income to think that's going to matter to someone else doesn't actually matter. We can hand them $10,000 to help pay for their closing costs. They'll never remember it, but we can know that their son is a drummer and find some cool drumsticks that we know are awesome and remember that and give them to them at closing. And we've basically handed them $1 million. Like
Oh my
the
gosh.
people are starved for connection and presence. And so don't give away your money. You're worth it. You earned it. Keep that money.
Yeah.
Have food with your meals. We like that. Food with meals is
Mhm.
good. But then at the end of the day, right? Keeping your money instead of offering it to other people allows you to be present, allows you
Yeah.
to show up and bring sandwiches on moving day,
Right.
allows you to sit with someone else in your brokerage and say, I'm so sorry you lost that listing. Tell me about it. How did it go? And take the time to do that. Right. So
Right.
that's a really practical thing.
Right. One other practical thing that comes to mind that I wanted to hop in with is when you're doing a debrief, like, do it. Here's a 3-part way of doing it. What worked about it, even if you didn't get it? What didn't work? And what are you doing next time?
Got
What
it.
worked? What didn't work?
Yeah.
What are you doing next time? Have the whole conversation and
Yep.
be available to hear other people, because what you learn and gather from this may surprise you about your own patterns and possibilities.
Yep. Yep.
I'm speaking
That's
from
what I
my
want
own
to come.
experience, not in real estate.
Yeah, well, right. Like it's so we joke that real estate is like no one wakes up and is like, I'm going to be a real estate agent when I grow up. That just no, that doesn't happen.
Yep.
People come to it from so many different places, and all of those places help them, hopefully, if they learn, become a better agent. Right.
100%. And I love that about, like, people overwhelmingly wanted others to be there with them. Like, we can always make more money. We have unlimited earning capacity as people in business for ourselves. Like, ultimately, yeah, it's on us. We create people and money with our minds. We call them in and then we work with them and then cash and prizes. Great.
Mhm.
And, like, we can't create more time. We don't know how much we have. We have today. We have right now. We can't make more of it, and we don't know how much we have. So this is aliveness. Welcome.
Yeah,
Like, there's
this is
no
life. This is
microcosm
brilliant.
like working for yourself to, like, allow you to experience significant contrast in thoughts and feelings. Really, really high and really, really low, and it's all valuable.
I love it. Ooh. Ooh, this has been so fun, Wendy. Thank you. Thank you. I want to just take a minute to summarize. And then if there's anything you want to add, please do, Wendy, at the end. But so many things. I was taking notes. I hope you were too, listeners. But the first thing that we talked about was feelings drive action and inaction. Feelings drive action and inaction. So if you find yourself recognizing that you're not doing something, check in to say, what feeling am I having that's stopping me from doing this, right? Because it drives inaction. 40 to 60 thoughts a day, also 40 to
Thousand.
60,000, sorry, 40 to 60,000 feelings a day. Holy cow. Let's take just a measurement of that. Presence is profitable. I mean, right? We could have just said that, mic drop, and walked out. That would have been just the whole thing right there.
Done. You're welcome.
I love
Yeah.
it. Yeah. And then again, lots of notes, but just a couple things. You said what worked, what didn't work, and then what am I going to do next time? So again, even if you're losing offers, you're doing something right in there. Something's going good. And being able to acknowledge that if you're working, how's that feel to just work? Even if you're not winning yet, you're going to get there. It's going to come. And then there are grief and loss, things that happen in our life every day. And your ability to learn how to navigate those and let them move through your body is going to
Mhm.
allow you to be more present in life and enjoy life more. And so again, if you've never hired a coach to do this, please look up Wendy Sloneker. But in the meantime, go ahead and find those trusted individuals in your life that you can have just listen to loss and see how that even starts to get it out of the back of your head and
Mhm.
through your body, right?
Yeah. And you can start with like things that may not be, losses, capital L. You can start with irritants and
Yeah.
annoyances. Like, highly recommend, because this will also cultivate your relationship with that person. You want that person to be present. You want you to be present.
Yeah.
This is how we live. So good. It's been
It's
such
so
a
good.
complete pleasure. I
Yay.
I love freaking you, and I'm so proud of you for like building Scout. Like, that's,
Thank you.
you were talking about the qualities and characteristics of who you wanted to surround yourself with as you were creating, like you were building the plane as it was flying, as you were in, like receiving passengers. It was like flying and in the air. And this is what you talked about. And it's totally alive.
Yay.
It's
Thank you
such
so
a
much.
pleasure. Such a pleasure.
Thank you for being on the show. Pick up her book, Heart Healing from Loss. You can find it on Amazon, on other places. And Wendy, always a pleasure. Can't wait to see you socially. And thanks for being on the show. Really appreciate it.
Biggest treat. Hang in there, everybody. You're doing it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for listening into Pocket Hours. I hope this has been interesting, fun, made you laugh, made you think, spurred you on to do and implement some new things in your business. I appreciate your time and hope this has been a good use of it, period. Now, go be the agent you would hire.